Today, another special episode. You know, we have those very unique type of people on our show, and today is one of those days when we have this man in front of us. His name is Benita. I'm just going to read through some of his bio, which is very, very impressive. He currently lives in Gainesville, Virginia, and has been active in real estate since 2003. So for the ones who are bad at the math, that's 17 years, very long time. He's currently a partner in an LB multifamily capital and investment company with a focus on Class B and C value add properties. He has been featured guest on numerous podcasts and radio programs, including Ask the Experts and Real Estate Roundup, heard on CBS Radio and now on Money Show podcast as well. Hey, written short sale negotiations book currently available on Barnes and Nobles. Is it going to be available on Amazon as well?
Yeah, so it was on Amazon. I got in irritating a fight with Amazon, so I pulled it off Amazon. I actually know I'll put it back on there by next week for sure. It should be on there. I got enough story, but yeah.
The title is awesome. It's called "Learning to Swim in the Short Sale Ocean." I love that. And coming soon, learning to swim when everything you own is underwater. So beautiful. He leads a popular local meetup with his partner, Ted Leigh, that is held the third Thursday of every month. So that's awesome. It sounds like, it looks like you have so many things going on. And before our initial, before we started this interview, you mentioned we had a phenomenal conversation. I just love the knowledge and, positivity and all the stories that you mentioned about, all these people's success mindset, the way it works. And I know that you do the coaching, which we're going to talk about a little bit, as well. But first of all, for the people who are not familiar with you currently, maybe you give a short story of yourself. How did you started investing in real estate journey and how did it start for you?
Oh, that's good. Now, try to keep it short. I started flipping houses back in 2003. From 2003 to 2005, made ridiculous money. I only got started back up a little bit. My goal was always to get into multifamily, the big sexy stuff. Hate politics, don't want to talk about it, but at the time wanted to be like Donald Trump. He was the rich real estate guy. I was like, that sounds great. I didn't know anything at all about real estate, so I figured I'd start with residential. Got into residential, bought my first property in 2003. Owned 28 properties in the Washington, D.C. area at one point. Was worth a little over $2 million on paper and equity, so it was like, I'm on track. The goal was to liquidate that, put some money in the bank, and buy my first multifamily property. Was in the process of doing that in 2005. Got wiped out when the market year turned. I ended up in bankruptcy. Excuse me, on food stamps. That's what that second book, Learning to Swim When Everything You Own is Underwater, is a lot about my journey and how I got through. There's some stuff in there about how I got into coaching. I even had I'm divorced now, but I had to sell my wife's wedding ring at the time, so it sucked. Real estate's not all fun and glorious and money, but again, that was 2005. I got into short sales. I started a short sale processing company because literally everybody in the area was getting killed. All the houses were upside down. Ended up writing the first book, Learning to Swim in the Short Sale Ocean, for real estate agents. Did that not so much for money, but really more for credibility as much as anything else. I think it's important. It's impressive, of course, to write a book, but the truth is it's really no different than writing a paper in high school or college. Instead of turning it into a teacher, you give it to a publisher. He or she sexies it up, puts it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and yeah, now you're an author, and it impresses people. But I tell people it shouldn't knock the authors. Yeah, don't be too impressed with the author. I mean, literally I tell so many people this, literally anybody can write a book. It's a matter of pulling the stuff out of your head, putting it on paper, saying, hey Mike, hey Joe, read this. You're a publisher. What do you think? They pretty it up and all of a sudden you're an author. So it looks impressive. It sounds impressive, but it's nice helping people too. But I said, I did the first book around 2010, 2011. Finally just now getting around to writing the book about my story. Bought my first apartment building in 2016. I joke, 13 years behind schedule, but learned about how to put syndications together, how to raise private money. I got a great base of private money now, currently looking aggressively for deals in the Washington, D.C. area, nationwide, but ideally around Washington, D.C., just something we can drive back and forth to in a day's time. And I love it. I said, I got into that, and then, excuse me, I said, well, when I was going through my tough times, 2010, 11, 12, became a big fan of Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas. There's a lot of great speakers, and realized for me, that was the key to getting through the tough times. I put this in my book. I think the solution to literally any problem you're going through is people. Finding the right people to talk to the right story, the right book, the right video, the right webinar. When you stumble across somebody who's gone through what you have, like we talked about before, I call them expanders. They kind of show you the way. They show you, hey, I went through something you did. I went through something worse. I had less money. My parents are broke up. I was this. They had the tougher stories. But once you see somebody else can buy their first multifamily property, somebody else they finished a marathon. Somebody else went through a rough patch with their wife, but they pulled it together. Once you see that's possible, again, it changes your thinking and everything switches. And that's what happened to me. I said, I probably spend 75% of my time right now looking for multifamily properties. I've got financial goals I'm trying to hit. And then the other 25% of my time right now is doing some coaching and speaking. I'm hoping to get those to about 50-50, here in the months ahead. But my financial goal at the moment, my first year out of college, I was making $30,000 a year. So my goal now, and it's going to be a book in the future. My goal now is to get to $30,000 a month. Since I made $30,000 a year my first year out of college, I'm definitely not there yet, but I can promise you I'm going to be there. But that's the name of the book on that's going to be from $30K a year to $30K a month, and that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. That's some really great book titles you're going to be coming up. And what you're mentioning is so true. Like, people buy in more into the stories rather than, like, you need a strategy. You definitely need a strategy in life and business, and like to pull, stuff out. But like, the stories are very powerful. As you mentioned, before the interview, like Kobe Bryant and Tony Robbins and like E.T. and all these great people, they have their own stories and their own like paths and the roads that they took. And when people hear those stories, they get inspired. And whatever, it inspires them to move from their place to a better place and just do, greater things in life, because they think, and they look at it like, oh, it's possible, it's doable. So, but like,
Exactly.
as you mentioned, like, and that's why it's so great. Like, I know, a few, coaches in business, and they're super great people. Because again, you need somebody that's close to you, very close to you, to make sure that they sometimes hold your hand and just keep you, like, credible. Like, man, you need to do things and like strategize and talk stuff, through. And it's very powerful. So I love what you do. Like, real estate and, coaching is phenomenal. I love that. So
Absolutely.
for the people who are watching, because again, I think we're going to be taking this 70-30, same as we're doing now, real estate and coaching. So we're going to do 70 real estate, and the rest is going to be maybe, mentoring and coaching. So again, for the people who are watching and they thinking like, man, like, everybody's in real estate now. It's a sexy thing. Like, landlords make money, get rich while they sleeping, or something like that. The quote, right? So like, everybody wants to be in real estate. So, but like, I have this full-time job, man, like, how I can get into real estate, maybe Ben can give me an advice of some stepping stones that I should take to get into the business.
Yeah, I would tell you the best thing, I think we talked about this for the coaching, but the best thing anybody can do, no matter what your goal is, if it's, again, financial, physical, whatever it is, join a group, find a partner. We can say this on here. One of my favorite things I like to say is, life is like an orgasm. You can have one by yourself, but it's much better with a great partner.
I love that.
Just a fact. If you're trying to, you don't know anything about multifamily stuff, you got a full-time job, maybe don't have the time, meet somebody that's doing it. I mean, literally, when I do the coaching or hear, the newbies that say, hey, I really want to get into that, you can certainly talk to me anytime. You can get on LinkedIn. You should be able to Google, who owns apartment buildings in DC or Chicago, wherever you may be living. You're going to find names and numbers. Pick up the phone and call them. Hey, I'm Ben. I'd love to take you to lunch. I'm thinking about getting into multifamily properties. Can I pick your brain over lunch? You may have to call 2 people. You may have to call 200 people. And that goes back to, again, what we talked about before we kind of started this. Why do you want to get into multifamily? Why is it important to you to make the $30,000 a month, or to quit your job, or spend more time with your kids, your wife? And once you have that figured out, all of a sudden it's like, I can't call 200 people. I don't feel like it. All of a sudden it's like, I'm going to call 300 people if I have to, because I want to make the money. I want to spend more time with my kids, or help my parents, or maybe there's a charity, or, something. But find out those reasons why you want that. And then the road becomes less daunting, and you're much more likely to actually do that. One of my favorite things is a number of them here because I'm near DC. There's a lot of meetup groups. Local things. Hey, you can go to meetup.com. That's why we started one. And see who's starting. Maybe there's already a how to buy your first apartment building meetup. Go to that damn thing. Meet people. Again, best thing you can do. If there isn't one, start one. One of the reasons, again, I really like the meetup thing. I think it's like $20 or $30 a month, but they actually advertise it for you. Our group, we just had our first meeting in December. I know we're over 100 members now. I haven't done hardly any advertising. It's literally just trying to figure out the format and what to do and how to structure it. But, again, go join a meetup, go join a group, find somebody that's already doing it. And again, that's the best thing you can do is talk to people that are already doing it. You hear the good, the bad. We could probably talk for 3 or 4 days on how to find properties, how to raise money. That there's so many things. And one of the things when I got started in real estate, people seem to be so helpful. Like, there's so much money, there's so much pie on the table. If we have to go 50-50, if you get 90%, I get 10%, you're getting the education. It's an amazing thing. I'm a little biased, obviously. I don't know why more people don't do it. It's not that difficult. Just get out, find out why you want to do it, and go attack that stuff.
Definitely great advice, because I think, again, you talked about a lot of stuff here in that one particular question, and I would like to divide everything, but again, because of the time, it won't be possible. But just to cover a few things, like, first of all, when you mentioned people going and having 200 calls that they should go and make, and like, network with people. And most of the time, like, coming back to the coaching thing, like, I didn't know that, because, like, being a human being, I don't know the way I operate. Like, I know I do stuff. I need to go toilet, like, I need to drink, and like, I need to eat and all that, like, the body works. But I didn't know, like, more in depth. Like, I never knew actually when you pick up a phone, if you're scared of that, I didn't know where that feeling comes from. And then like, through the books, again, coming back to Tony Robbins, like, I know he studied John Grinder and Richard Bandler, who are the co-founders of NLP. And these guys wrote it in a book. They said, listen, because you have a picture in your mind that's very scary, probably black and white, very big and like noisy. And once I started understanding those things, I was like, oh, there's a way to break through those type of things, to make those images smaller, to control my brain more. Exactly. So that's why I'm coming back. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why what you are doing, this coaching. So you would show people how to actually understand how your brain works, how to, get in control of that, because everything that you want in life, like, every time I'm talking with somebody on a podcast like this, I'm having guests, they're, $700 million real estate, they're just starting out. Everybody's mentioning one thing. Nobody's talking about real estate most of the time. They're talking about the mindset. Because
that's 90% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you want to succeed in life, it's all the mindset. If you think you can or can't, you're right. So that's what it is. So, okay. That's it. Yeah. So that's it, guys. The show is over. Is that simple? That simple. So, okay. So, looking where we are at the market currently, again, I love the advice that you gave for people, telling that it's possible to achieve, to get involved into real estate, go and get, involved with the meetups or start one. What do you think is now the right time? Because everybody's talking, the experts in economy saying now it's the top of the market is going to tank, and everybody's kind of freaking out a little bit. And what do you think for the new people who are looking to start? Is it a good time, or should they wait it out?
Again, just my strategy. I think it's always a good time. There's sometimes are better than others, but I think a lot of the private money sources I have lined up are from, like, the We Buy Houses guys, the people that flip. And I think that I'd argue probably the number one problem with people who worry about them. You should certainly be in touch with if the market's going up or down, but again, you should be in it for the long-term game. Right now, I can promise you today's, hell, look at that, it's 2/20/2020. If you and I were to meet February 2nd, 2040, there's not a single property you could buy right now that wouldn't be up. So most people are like, well, what's going to be like in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Who cares? Get it. Plan to hold that cash flow for, I heard it called legacy wealth or generational wealth. The stuff I'm buying now, my kids' are going to benefit from. Mm-hmm. So if the market drops, say I buy something at the absolute worst time right now, the next 5 years the market drops, but the next 5, 10, 15 it goes up, I've won. So that's just how I think the long-term game. It certainly can vary by property, but again, I think so many people get wrapped up and worried in, this is bad, that's bad, that's bad, and it's one of my coaching questions I make people write down. Are you looking for a reason to get into apartments, or are you looking for a reason not to get into apartments? And most people, especially the newer people, if I have them list out each one before I start pressing them, their list of reasons not to get into apartments is a whole lot longer. They're worried about the market. My mom said this, my dad said this, I can't do this, I heard this guy got wiped out, I don't have the money. It's this big, long list of reasons not to do it. And again, in the coaching thing, I have them flip those two. There's a whole lot more. There's always a whole lot more reasons, a whole lot more powerful and emotional reasons to buy something today. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest you take your kids to college and every dime you have and go all in, especially if you haven't done one before. But damn it, I mean, get out there, find somebody who's done it, and say, hey, let me make some phone calls for you. Let me sit in your car. Let me take you to lunch. Do you mind sending me a sample? I do this for some of my people. I should be telling this or not, but I'll be, like, if you and I are, you say, hey, Ben, I want to buy apartments. I don't know anything, but I can see you're eager and hungry. I'll blind copy you on an email. I'll send an offer out to John Smith, who owns 123 Main Street. I'll copy you on the email. You get to see my offer. You get to see my exact email. So again, you're learning, you're getting more comfortable with it. And, again, it's just baby steps. You do that. And then next thing you know, you may have a deal fall in your lap, or we may never talk again, but you're like, hey, I saw the email Ben sent. I saw the letter of intent, the contract, what he writes. So, I mean, you're getting that education. So, as that grows to the days, weeks, months, and years, literally the only thing that'll be stopping you from buying your own apartment building, like we talked about before, is your mind. I mean, you're going to talk yourself out of it, or you're going to say, hey, I'm doing this for my wife. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my kids' kids, or I'm real active with, foster kids. I want to get back to this charity. And again, once you have those, like we talked about beforehand, you're like Kobe, you have that fire inside, and it's like, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm getting up early. I'm going to make those calls even though I'm uncomfortable. Or you touched on it. People, it's a big stopper for people. People are afraid to pick up the phone, and make those calls. It's a beautiful thing about the time we're in, now. Get on Google, get on YouTube. How can I be more comfortable, making cold calls to apartment buildings? Or how can I get more comfortable? There's a seminar, there's a webinar, there's a book. There's people like me out there who say, hey, I've done hundreds of them. I'm still uncomfortable initially. And picking up the phone the first time, it's like, what do you feel? You're just the way our minds are programmed. But then I start thinking, hey, if I don't make these calls, I've got to tell my kids, hey, the reason we can't take that trip is because Dad didn't feel like making those phone calls. The reason I can't, take off the next week and fly to Fiji with my girlfriend is because I didn't feel like making those phone calls. Screw that.
Yeah.
I'd rather pick up the phone, make the calls, gut it out, than tell my kids, well, Dad wasn't in the mood, or Dad didn't feel like doing it that day. And like I said, it's it's having that reason.
That's painful.
Powerful stuff.
That's painful right
Yeah,
there.
it hurts.
Because what you're saying is so true. Because when I started basically my business journey, I started network marketing company, and it's like the shyest person you would ever meet. Probably not the shyest, but very shy. Like, just sit in front of the people, just blush, like couldn't talk, like very shy, like very, very introverted, very like closed, and very like, like thinking like, oh my. So, but once like I started the business, I found the why, what you mentioned, the big reason to do something, to push myself and actually go and talk with the people. And then what you're saying, like when it comes back to the phone calls, I met and talked and had phone calls with the same as you, like hundreds of people. And like when the next time you're calling, what you're saying, like you're afraid, still, but at least now you know what to say and what to do. And you know how to handle objections, and you're in control of situation. And that's why people are scared, because they don't know how to control it. They're missing information. So, and that's what you're saying, like in this day and age, like you can go here on this piece of a machine
there
and find everything that you want. So, or you can go and find the excuses why you can't. So in both, that's the funny thing too. Both of them are already there. And I mean, you're a perfect example. You certainly seem super comfortable on the podcast. And imagine your very first guest, or the first time you flicked it on, it's like, oh God, what if this, what if this, what if that? Now it's like, right, I assume you get on now and you fly through it. And that's why I think. I love it. I love it. Because you see, my focus changed. Because before I was selfish. I was thinking, what people are going to think about me? And now I'm like all locked in on a person, as like, I want to get to know the person more. So when you change the focus from yourself to whatever, your family, your friends, your colleague, whatever. You just switch the focus. Don't be selfish, because if you're scared, you're thinking about yourself. So stop
That's exactly.
thinking about yourself and think about
Yeah.
something bigger than that, so.
And that's exactly it. And one other thing, like we talked about too before we started this, that's why I think it's so important for people to share their journeys. Because I promise you, you get to anybody who's successful, every one of them. Everybody's heard of Tony Robbins. If you're in the self-improvement thing, Tony talks about the first few times he spoke. Nobody showed up to Tony Robbins' thing. He'd go to speak at a real estate office, and 2 or 3 people would show up. So I mean, again, everybody, Kobe Bryant, missed foul shots. Think of anybody great. They all had the same. We all have to go down the same path. The difference is some people, stop because hit some bumps. Other people are like, screw it. I'm going. This is where I'm going. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do this because, like you said, it's not about what I think or how I feel. It's like people need to hear this information. People need to hear my story. I'm going to inspire, the next multimillionaire who's going to own 10,000 units in 3 years. Like it's just, and like you said, once that switch goes, yeah, you fired up. You're making the phone calls. You're doing the podcast, and it's a whole shift, and that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it definitely is.
That's
Yeah.
when you get over that.
Yeah. So, okay, coming back from the mindset, switching from 30% to 70 back, again, real estate, again, cash flow, like it's no brainer, like, particularly in multifamily space, recession proof, provides passive income every month or every quarter, depending on the way they structure deals. But it's just a great vehicle to be in, So even if you're like buying houses or something for appreciation, I don't know, but real estate, great thing.
Yeah.
So, but is there any risks actually for people who are watching this? Because they look at it as this like shiny object, which is like quick rich, get rich quick thing, which is not. But is there any risks involved, and what risks they should pay attention to? Like,
I would say I when I got wiped out, when I got started flipping houses, I was doing everything by myself. And like I mentioned before, I just think, I hate to call people idiots, but I think if you don't have a partner, you're an idiot. I mean, if you're trying to do all this stuff by yourself, you're going to make mistakes. I was at a meetup last night, and I'm such a big proponent of partners, whether you're trying to flip a house, buying a car wash, buying a restaurant, whatever you're doing for cash flow, talk to people, find partners. You and I could partner on something, and I may think I know everything, and you find something I don't, or vice versa. Hey, Ben, this is a no-brainer deal. What do you think? And I'm like, well, what about this? And you're like, oh, yeah, we missed that. So I'm a huge proponent of, finding partners, finding mentors, finding coaches, finding people that have been there ahead of you and having them review stuff. So I certainly always think that there are risks, but there's a lot of ways to mitigate those risks. Again, by bringing in partners, accountants, attorneys. Hey, what do you think about these? Have an accountant review the financials from the house or from the apartment building. Have your attorney review the contracts. If you're flipping houses, I think you're an idiot if you don't, get a home inspector, get a contractor who knows what he's doing. Even if it costs you money, even if you have to give up half the deal, it's so much better than losing money. I've been on that end of the thing, and losing money just sucks. You expect everything to go good, and it doesn't. So to mitigate to answer your question, I think there's always risk, but the best way to mitigate that is through partners, through education. And again, I'm a huge proponent of that. Partner up with people. Another reason I love real estate. I mean, most of the time you're looking at $5, $10, $50, $100, $200,000 check. Give up some of it. I mean, don't be afraid to split that pie up and say, let's go 50-50, or I only want 10% because I want you to, make sure I don't do anything stupid here. And again, I guess I hope that answers your question. But yeah, are there risks? I think there's always risks, but yeah, the best way to mitigate those risks is to partner with people, and ideally with people that are, ahead of you, that have flipped 100 houses or own 100 apartment units. You can, again, greatly mitigate any risks that you might look at or might be facing otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Connor, because I know he's going to be watching. It's just a guy that I know, he's like, I don't read the books. I don't like the mentoring stuff. And I'm like, man, you're going to fail a big time. And he runs a media company as well in London. So I was like, man, it's going to be tough for you, because like what you're saying is so true. Like you need, the people that you can, mirror, duplicate, and, learn from their failures. Exactly. Don't make your own, like, and it's going to waste a bunch of time and money. It's going to cost you so much problems. So it's a stupid thing if people don't.
That was my advice when I got started from 2003 to 2005. I wasn't working with anybody. but that was only because the market here in the States was going straight up. Like you could literally I was like, I'll take that house. As long as you could sit on literally any house for 6 months, you made money. And my ego grew, my bank account grew, and next thing you go, I got wiped out. And again, when I talk about my past, I guarantee, if you and I had partnered on that, at some point you'd have said, hey, Ben, dial it back. Look what the market's doing. Things are turning. And I had nobody to do that. I would just money to go. It's all me. Look at me. I'm doing this. I'm flipping that. And it didn't end well. I got wiped out. So yeah, partners are great.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about the partners, and again, for the people who are, watching this, maybe they have no intention, going and buying the 200 plus unit, complex, but they see, it makes sense for them to go maybe buy a duplex or fourplex or, something in that range.
Sure.
So what do you think for those people, again, mentioning the partnerships, should they go and get the management, for those type of properties, or should they run, those properties and manage by themselves? What do you think?
I definitely would. And again, it always depends on the deal. But yeah, I had a whole bunch. I had 28 properties at one point, and at least half of those were rentals. And I was doing it myself. And just me personally, and hopefully all your listeners, I have a big heart, and I couldn't. If Joe's my tenant, and Joe's like, Ben, I lost my job. I'm going through divorce. I can't pay you this month. I'm like, Joe, I got you. I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll work that out. And then 1 month turns into 2 months, turns into 6 months. And I'm like, I feel like a jerk for kicking Joe out. But I'm like, I can't pay your mortgage and mine. And that for me was probably the number one reason I always hire property managers now. But the second thing, again, they make great partners. They're going to find the good tenants, not, if you've never managed a property or, checked credit scores and done all that stuff. Again, I think it's foolish to manage your own properties. I know people that do it. Not my thing. So I would definitely, a big proponent of property managers. Certainly nothing wrong with buying. I'm ambitious. I've got big goals, but I know people that, hey, my goal is to own 5 houses, have them all paid off for the next 15, 20 years, because that'll give me cash flow of, 10,000, 15 a month. That's going to be my retirement. Hey, God bless you. Good luck. It's a clean, a simple strategy. And just like we just mentioned, partner up, find an agent who's familiar with investments, find a meetup group, talk to somebody who's flipping houses. You can go down, this could be a whole nother show. It's not hard to find landlords. You can call a property manager. Hey, who do you know has 10 properties in this city that I'm looking at owning a duplex in? Most of them will tell you, hey, Joe has 10, Sally has 10, get their number, just like before. Hey, Joe, let me take you to lunch. I'm looking at buying a rental. Yeah, I want to know, what do you think about this market? What do you think about this area? And it's just kind of a common theme. Find somebody who's done it, see what they think about the area, and it'll help you, avoid making a lot of foolish mistakes. Or, again, you could buy that duplex and you didn't get a home inspection. You run into a $20,000 issue, or you buy the duplex. Next thing you know, have a tenant who's not paying you because you're like, I don't need a property manager. I can handle that. So, again, like your previous question, it's just very wise, like I said, to work with people who have already done it. Just makes everything in life easier.
Yeah, definitely. I like, that again, you're coming from this space, like you're coming from the space where you used to have like a few units, and now you're looking to, like, now you're getting involved with hundreds of units, in one huge complex. So I like the thinking, because like bigger is always better. Like whoever is saying, you guys, like small is like this one's small space, like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like bigger is better, because what will be the management fee for the for the fourplex, and percentage wise, and when it's 250 unit deal is going to be completely different.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's we found usually as long as it's 20 units or bigger, it makes perfect sense to have a property manager. Less than that, the numbers can get tight unless you find a screaming deal. And again, just for the headaches, it's nice to took me a while to do this. It's nice to have somebody else in charge. So if somebody needs to be evicted, if there's a light bulb out, a toilet problem, they're not calling you, bothering you. So like I said, the bigger the better for sure in properties. And I guess this is being completely honest, to kind of call out the people like only want to own 5 houses. The only reason people do that is because they're scared. Yeah. I mean, why would you want to own 5 houses when you could own 50? The reason most are like, well, I don't want to own 50. Really? You don't want more money for your family, more money for your kids, your mom, your dad, your friends? Yeah. Even if you're single, flying solo on your own, What about the people behind you? You think if
Exactly.
you need $10,000 a month to live, that's your goal. Well, if you had $50,000 a month, what would you do the extra 40? You could help the homeless. You could join some
So
cause
that's
whatever
what I'm
it is. So
saying.
it's like
That's what I'm saying. But
motivation.
sorry for interrupting, but that's exactly what I'm
No,
saying. People are selfish. They're thinking, oh no, I
yeah,
need
exactly.
5 houses because I'm good. So, but what
Yeah.
about the rest of the people? What about your church? What about your community? What about the like homeless people that are living on the street and all these problems that we have, like in China with the viruses and like Australia fires and who knows what next is coming up. So like
Yeah.
we need like money, like in this day and age, like we live in a world where we need
Yeah.
money to do things and influence people. So just
Yep.
it's a selfish thing. So when people like jump on like onto coaching, that's why again coming back to your point, like I'm not trying to sell people an idea like you need it, but like you
Yeah.
really need, because like I had multiple people in my life that like brought me to this place when I started to think bigger. And that's what you need. You need to
Yeah. Yeah.
start think bigger and just to see there's different angles in life that you're not seeing. And that's why you need a coach, because like coming back to Kobe Bryant, while he's playing in this like on the ground, like the coach sees his angles and he's okay,
Yeah.
like Kobe, improve that stuff, do the stuff better, maybe just throw the jump shot like different.
Exactly.
So that's why you need the coach, because you're not able to see it, like you're the mistakes
Yeah.
that you're making in the business.
Yeah.
So
100%. That's just a
awesome.
fact.
Yeah. So coming back, like mentorships, it's super important. But again, for the people who are thinking like, man, like it's gonna be pricey for me. Look, I don't have any real estate. I just have my own job,
Yeah.
like 9 to 5. I don't have anything, and it's just it's gonna be a slow pace for me. I cannot pay for the mentorship right now, but maybe Ben can recommend me 3 books, because I can scrape money for that. So I can go and grab it from Amazon, or one of those are probably gonna be your books. So, what type of books would you recommend for people if they want to start real estate business?
I'll tell you 2 things before I do the books. If you do find somebody that you want to work with, a coach, and like, hey, it's $1,000 or $10,000. I know some coaches charge 6 figures for coaching. If you really want to work with them, if you really think they can get you the result, offer to help them in some way. Offer to do some marketing for them. Say, hey, I don't have any money because things are tight. That's why I'm trying to get my cash flow right. Offer to do some social media stuff. Hey, what if I talk up your coaching program or your podcast, or let me do this, or at your next event, let me volunteer at your next event. I'll help people find seats. I'll help sell T-shirts. I'll introduce you. People want to see that you're that hungry. If you can prove to a coach, a mentor, somebody, hey, I can't afford your $10,000 program, but they can see that you're hungry. I want to say 100%, 99% chance they're going to say, hey, okay, you don't have to pay me the $5,000, but promise to post. Ben Benita is the greatest guy in the world, every day on Facebook, or, do this for that. There's always a way. So don't ever let that stop you.
Yeah.
My
Add value.
Yeah, it's a good way to get around. Some coaches, charge exorbitant fees.
Yeah.
That could be a whole other topic too. The books. I think the number one book for everybody recommends is that the Robert Kiyosaki's The Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think is a great book. The other one I definitely recommend. Jack Canfield has a book called The Success Principles. There's a lot of good stuff in that. A lot of good tips and tricks and quotes and stories. And then my other favorite book, Think and Grow Rich is a good book, but that Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, but he wrote another book called Outwitting the Devil.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was a huge game changer, because like the common theme we've mentioned, it's all about thinking. And he addresses in that book, he calls it the drift, like why when you lose focus, you lose attention, like why I'm going to make my phone calls, and then 2 hours later you find out you've been on Facebook, or you're screwing around in emails or playing video games or something. But he addresses why people drift, like how you get pulled off into social media, you get wrapped up in Instagram, or instead of making the phone calls. But I would definitely recommend that book. It's one not a lot of people have heard from, but again, that one's called Outwitting the Devil, and there's all kinds of tricks for how to catch yourself when you lose focus, and how to get yourself back in focus. And it goes over why people drift, like how your brain's wired to avoid the phone calls and let's go have a donut, or I work from home. I can go do laundry, I can go do this, or what about that? And he addresses a lot of that. And I think that's, again, like the common theme you said with other guests. And once you get your thinking, your mind straight, everything changes. Those 3 books, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and I like Outwitting the Devil. Those would definitely be my 3 recommendations for helping you get started, or getting that internal flame started for you.
Got it. Got it. Thank you very much. Those are great books. I just put a note for myself because, like, Rich Dad Poor Dad, guys, you already heard this. It's becoming the show's theme. Everybody's mentioning the book because I think it opens. It's a gateway to people explore the unknown. Like, I never knew, like, before, because I think Rich Dad Poor Dad wasn't an entry point into the business world for me. There was some other
Right.
books like David Schwartz. I can't remember the name, but there was this wave, like, in the book cover. Great book. Just broadened my mindset. But Rich Dad Poor Dad and Napoleon Hill. So definitely gonna grab that one because multiple people mentioned that book. So coming back to that and the mindset, again, we have a 2020 year. It's kind of a fresh, March is going to start in a few days, very soon. So it's kind of a fresh year still. So maybe you can share, with the audience, some of the goals for business or personal life that you have for yourself this year.
For me, that's a good one. My personal life, actually just started dating a girl, Shale Spangler. Hey, girl, she's fantastic. My personal life couldn't be better. She's awesome. Physically, I've done a couple of Ironman races, the triathlons. Definitely want to do one of those in fall. That's a goal. I've applied, mentioned this briefly before you got on here, to do a TEDx talk. I definitely want to do a TEDx talk.
Looking forward to that.
Start with why and with who. That'll be. I'll definitely let you know when I do that. That's going to be awesome. And then my goal is I'm going to keep it in my personal financial goal is to make. I mentioned this earlier when we were recording, but I said I made $30,000 a year in salary when I first got out of college, and thinking back now that was for 60, 70 hours a week plus traffic plus a boss. I was sitting in the cubicle and it sucked. And then to see that I can actually make $30,000 a month, literally just for waking up for multifamilies. That's the path I'm on. So we have a bunch of them written down financially. We own a certain number of units, certain number of cash flows. What I calculated for those that understand cap rates and everything, if I'm a 10% partner, $53 million worth of real estate, if I own just 10% of that, if that's all valued at a 7% cap rate, then I'll make $30,000. My piece of that, as far as cash flow, will be about $30,000, a little over $30,000 a month. So my goal, as soon as possible, is to be 10% owner. Great if I can get 11, 12, 20%, but at least a 10% owner and $53 million in apartment buildings. And when I do, I'll be writing a book about how I got there, and I'll even plug this podcast because I like this is good stuff. But yeah, those are my personal and financial goals for this year. And the years ahead. It's going to take a while to 53 million, but hopefully in the next 24 months.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen because you have the right mindset, and I'm sure you surround yourself with the right people and do take the right action steps on a daily basis. So one of those things, like you mentioned, because like again, like coming from social media space, like we do have a company that works with real estate companies mainly. I don't know if you do that, but like. I'm not here to pitch the story because people who are watching, they already know, like, I'm Martin, shut up, like, we already know. But, the thing is that real estate space is a little bit outdated. And again, there is like all these indicators that are not using social media to capitalize on it and raise capital and just, get more attention, because in this day and age, whoever gets the most attention will get the most value, which eventually will become in money. So maybe you 100%. Can tell people, audience, the softwares, it doesn't have to be social media softwares or something with social media that you use for your business, like on a daily basis, that makes it, easier or smoother for you to run.
Yeah, I don't have a specific software for social media. I know, but assume you have your cash flow hat on too, like Grant Cardone. He's loving. I know people love him, people hate him. I thought he was an obnoxious schmuck when I first heard him, but when I heard his story, I know the reason he bought the jet, the reason he does a lot of flashy stuff, it's a big F you to everybody who told him he'd never make it. And I was like, you know what? If I had 100 people that told me, hey, Ben, you're never going to be rich, you're never going to do this and that, when I make it, there's a good chance I'm going to be like, hey, guess what? Here I am. Here's my jet. Here's this. Here's that. So I get that. I said, to answer your question, I think it's so important for people to share their journeys, whether it's on Facebook, literally just make a post. I had a great call. I was on a great podcast. I think the Instagram stories, the Facebook stories, the Facebook Lives are great. Again, anything you can do to share your journey, I think, is key, because people, we talked about this a little bit earlier, people love a good story. Like when you say, that's why I kind of like my thing, why I want to get to $30,000 a month. People want to see if I make it there. Sure, you've heard of that Gary Vaynerchuk guy?
Oh,
Social media, have you heard of him? Yeah. everybody knows he wants to buy the Jets. So
Yeah.
I love Gary's stuff. You know, it's kind of what you tune in. He's great with social media. He's on there every day. You know, we all want to be there when Gary. I don't even know how close he is to doing that. When Gary finally signs that, you're all kind of vested in, hey, Gary made it. That's awesome. So I think it's important to put your goals out there.
Yep.
You know, share your story. Hey, I want to get to these goals. Here's why. And again, people start following you and say, did Ben do this today? Did Ben do that today? And again, people get caught up in that. And I think it's so important to share that. One of the quotes, I'm a big quote and stories guy. People are always going to be more inspired by your journey than by your success. You know, if you see me standing in front of my own private jet, it's like, hey, that's cool. But if I showed you literally before I got that jet, if I'm saying, hey, I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment, I'm divorced, I'm broke, on my ass, I'm on food stamps, and you know, if you watch my journey, that's a whole different level of inspiration. Just seeing, hey, here's some old bald guy who's got a jet, whatever. You're like, I remember when that guy was sleeping on his couch. I remember that guy was behind in child support or couldn't pay this or pay that. You know, people love that. So I would say, man, share your story. And I think social media, I think the Facebook Live, Instagram stories, and the Facebook stories are the best way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Rags to
and don't be afraid to put good and bad out there.
Rags the richest story. Everybody loves that stuff because, you know, it's the truth. Like, you know, people want to get inspired. People want to see the ups and downs. They don't want to only see the flashy stuff, your Rolly and your Rolls Royce or whatever you have going on, you know, like show them, you know, the ups and downs and, you know, the failures that you have in business. Because, you know, people know it's not always a good day. Like, you know, most of the time it's just, you know, like in business, most of the time is just solving problems, like 95%. Yeah. And 5% you like celebrate, oh my God, I got something exciting going on. Yeah. But most of the time it's just problems and pushing how I can get to another level. So that's what it is. Exactly. So, okay, marketing tools. So before we finish off, maybe you can tell people, again, you mentioned some social media platforms. So you can drop those in here and I will make sure that those going to be, again, guys, for you, a link down below that you can connect with Ben. So those, what those social media platforms will be for people to get in contact with you?
For me, just the B on Instagram is probably where I do most of my stuff. Just Benita123 is my Instagram and Twitter. My website, coaching. I do obviously some coaching, put some real estate on too, which is benbenita.com. You can hear more about me, but I said, I'm literally, guys, I'm on Facebook, obviously, just as Ben Benita. Don't be afraid to call me, text me, message me. Literally, if I can do anything to help. Again, we touched on this. It's great to make the money, but it sounds so cliche, and until you've actually done it, maybe you don't get it, but nothing literally gives me more joy than hearing somebody say, hey, Ben, I just secured my first private money source for $50,000, or I just saw my first deal and I'm so excited and happy about it. I mean, that's the juice. That's what really matters. And man, that's what I want. Like, you know, I don't want to say it's never going to happen because I'm definitely going to get to that 30K a month. But if I didn't get there, but I helped 30 people or 300 people make get to their financial goals, that's even more important than that 30K a month. And that's just honest truth right there. I mean, please reach out to me. You know, if there's something I can do to help you out or something I can do to make what I'm doing better, you know, let me know. I'm an open book, try to keep it straight, do what I can.
Awesome. Because again, what you're saying is so true, because we just had this conversation not long ago with a guy, and I asked him, you know, similar questions. I was like, if you would have, you know, million friends, or you're going to have $1 million in the bank account, what you rather choose? And, you know, he's like, oh, the money. And, you know, he just got confused, and it was like, look, it will be the friends for sure. Because again, you need the friends, like, and that's why I love, again, doing the podcast, because I love talking, you know, people like yourself sharing their stories so other people can engage and learn something at the same time and just become a part of your community so you can help them. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Like, the money is a byproduct of whatever you do. So if you're going to provide value, as you said, you're going to help 300 people. I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident you're going to reach the 30K per month, or probably going to even more. Because of that, because you provided so much tremendous value for people. So definitely, that's it.
I appreciate that, man. That's good. You're good. Great podcast.
So again, guys, you know, if you enjoyed the show, you already know what to do. Please like, subscribe to the channel. Go in contact with Ben. Again, you can find all the links down below. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I surely did. So it's just phenomenal, you know, connecting with you and sharing the story. And guys, as always, you know, I appreciate you watching, and I'm going to see you in the next episode. Thanks.